Hello, everybody. My name is Leah Swenson, and this is my presentation, Future Memory Approaches to the Preservation of At-Risk Languages. And this is for LIS 7700, History and Theory of Cultural Heritage Institutions. Here's a quick overview of what I'll be talking about just to orient us. We're going to talk about endangered languages, why it's important to preserve them, how they're preserved, some digital technologies in language preservation and revitalization, and we'll end with some ethical best practices for doing this work. Why is it important for us to be concerned with preserving heritage and endangered languages? Um, First of all, they're vital, as we know, for maintaining the cultural identity of a community in almost all cases. They also contain a wealth of extensive knowledge about a people and their local ecosystems, and some even contain ancient elements that give us very unique insights into the evolution of a people and a culture. And an example of that is Gailarong Tibetan language, or GTL, which is spoken by a minority language group in Tibet. That has actually one of the most complete views of ancient vocabularies in the world. So that's incredibly valuable. And also, there's just a lot of relevance to our contemporary daily life in the world today. Um, for example, there's tons of information contained in a lot of indigenous minority languages about how to live sustainably with the land and with the earth itself. I will share just a bit about how languages are preserved and the digital media technologies that are emerging within this field. Languages are preserved in a variety of different ways. Two very interesting frameworks that I found are lexicography, which is basically just the creation of dictionaries, using that framework in combination with ACI, which stands for Archival Community Informatics. And ACI really centers the needs of the communities participating in the project before all other aims or goals. So that I think is really interesting in giving that power balance back to the community that you're working in, and making sure their needs are also met and it's kind of a reciprocal positive experience. But no matter what the framework you're using, typically these projects contain education plans, formal training initiatives. They want to include the influence of the media locally, which can contribute to that dynamic of minority versus majority language. And then the most important factor is always active community involvement in the project. Digital technologies in language preservation and revitalization are really sort of taking off at a fast pace. These include things like recordings, digital archives, social media initiatives, VR, which is virtual reality, and AR, which is augmented reality, which are very cool and can allow kind of interactive, immersive experiences um, in the realm of language learning and preservation. A lot of these platforms are very participatory, which allows and encourages people to share myths and stories and oral histories with each other, connect with dispersed speakers. Um, Also, GIS software, which is Geographic Information System software for mapping, allows people to document extensive knowledge of their local ecosystems, like migration patterns, for example, areas with high biodiversity, and in that process also preserve languages. And probably the most rapidly evolving area is AI systems um, and NLP, which is natural language processing. That's an emerging field within AI that aims to really kind of allow AI processing to interpret languages rather than simply translate them and capture meaning of what is being said instead of just a literal translation. There are some concerns with AI systems due to the alarming lack of regulation on these systems, and also there's an equity issue that many of them skew toward a standard American English when they're trained. So we're going to wrap up quickly with just some ethical best practices for working with minority language communities. So some ethical concerns that we should take away is number one, data sovereignty should be maintained whenever it's possible. So that just means that the community should be able to maintain their rights to this data and have a say in how it's used to whatever extent is possible within this project. Um, and we should acknowledge and be very transparent about the fact that what we're doing is probably in itself a colonial act, right? We're recording language, taking it into a different context that could be incorrect. And then we're putting it in this space where there are litigious concerns like copyright ownership, that kind of thing that could be in direct um, conflict with the values of the community. So keeping that in mind. We need to shift our focus from going into a community and doing research on it to being a guest in the community and having the chance to do research with them and really involve them and their needs in the project. And super importantly, to rely on a professional code of ethics when we can, especially with the um, unregulation of AI as it emerges, and to really be flexible in that as well to honor the wishes of the community, which may not be in line with our ethical standards in sort of academia. So with that, I want to thank you for your attention, and I will leave you now with the citations of the references that I've used for this presentation. Thank you.